Chairman Gensler, my good colleague here, Mr. Cleaver, and I wrote to you in May regarding SEC's Conflicts of Interest Reproposed Rule, number 192, Prohibition Against Conflicts of Interest in Certain Certifications, and our concerns about the potential treatment of mortgage insurance-linked notes. Now, our letter was filed under the bulk of all comment letters, and the first sentence asked for you to that we're requesting a clarification of the language that's in your rule. So we're disappointed with the interpretation of our letter, which is pretty plain from the standpoint we'd like to have an answer. But mortgage insurers are a significant source of private capital in the housing and finance system, and these transactions are an important tool to reduce taxpayer risk, exposure, and cost. So question number one, do you agree that federal policy should encourage more private capital in the housing market, especially when it involves well-capitalized and highly rated entities?
Well, I think there are other agencies that are responsible there, but certainly our role at the SEC facilitates a mortgage market. We oversee, I don't know, 11 or $13 trillion mortgage securitization market, and what we are trying to do in that market, like other markets, is drive for greater efficiency and, as you say, opportunity for homeowners.
Well, the question is, can you be a partner with the private sector? So in other words, reinsurance for these companies is very important to be able to allow the reduction, well, the spread of risk, and then, of course, the reduction of cost. The question is pretty simple. Would you support something like that?
I think that if I understand the question, that mortgage originators rely also on mortgage insurance. That's an important part of it. That I agree. That's an important part of the market.
Okay. In our letter, we say that the rulemaking may unintentionally prohibit private insurers from procuring reinsurance via the capital markets through these MILs, which would negatively impact home buyers, lenders, and taxpayers. Are you considering changes to the rule to clarify the treatment of mortgage insurance-linked notes?
Without prejudging any adopting release, we're considering all the comments, including yours, but these individual letters you reference. Congress put a mandate that we had to help ensure that underwriters and sponsors of certain mortgage securitizations not be betting against their investors, and that's what we're trying to do.
Mr. Gensler, the letter should not be canned with the comment letters. It's a request for you to clarify what you're trying to accomplish here, and the letter to point out what we need clarification of. So we'd appreciate a response. Thank you for that. I also sit on the Chinese Select Committee, and as a result of my position there and my chairmanship of the National Security and Illicit Financing Subchair here, in 2022, the PCAOB inspection reports of mainland China and Hong Kong accounting firms, which audit U.S.-listed Chinese companies, were scathing and a reminder that financial statements produced by the CCP-controlled companies should never be trusted. Both reports showed unacceptable rates of Part 1-.A deficiencies, which are deficiencies so large that PCAOB staff believe the audit firm failed to obtain sufficient audit evidence to support its work on the public company's financial statements. Essentially, the audits were useless. Is it correct that under the Holding Foreign Companies Act, Accountable Act, these two firms, which failed so spectacularly, will not be inspected again by the PCAOB for another 2 to 3 years?
I'm not familiar enough with the PCAOB's rotating schedule, but it is accurate that when the PCAOB goes in to inspect an auditing firm in any country, they sometimes aren't able, they don't have the staff to go in on an annual basis.
Well, you know, the premise is correct there, where they only have to do it every 2 or 3 years. And so Mr. Sherman and I have introduced a piece of bipartisan legislation that require them to have an annual audit. These are very, as we saw in 2020, there were 1,000 companies on the exchange. Now it's down between 250 and 300. A lot of them are shell companies, and when we're threatened an audit, suddenly they disappeared. The funneling of our capital to Chinese companies and / the Chinese government and Communist Party has got to stop. And so we would appreciate your support for something like that, and Just a quick comment, yes or no?
Look, I think it's really important. If somebody wants to issue stock in the U.S., they need to comply with their laws.
Gentleman's time's
Particularly
expired.
China, that's very important.
Thank you very much. I yield back.